Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dhari Jaya Girivara Dhari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Jamunatira Vanachariram. Jamunatira Vanachariram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Rukmini Rakarish, Rukmini Rakarish, Rukmini Rakarish, Rukmini Rakarish. Oh, Jai Jagannath Swami, Jai Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Aṇḍāntara-stha His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jai Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dhama Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Purushottam Seta Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Sounds very low. The mic's very low. It's pretty low. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Can you find this? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you, Sachi. Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's Bhagavatam class. Today we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 50. Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Etāny asaṁhatya yadā, mahat-ādīni mahat-tattva sapta vai kāla-karma-guṇopeto jagad-ādir upāviśat etāny asaṁhatya yadā mahat-ādīni sapta kāla-karma-guṇopeto jagad-ādir upāviśat asaṁhatya yadā mahad-ādīni sapta kāla-karma-guṇopeto jagad-ādir upāviśat. Someone. Ladies. Anyone else? Translation. When all the elements were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of creation, along with time, work, and the qualities of the modes of material nature, entered into the universe with the total material energy in 7 divisions. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After stating the generation of the causes, Kapiladeva speaks about the generation of the effects. At that time, when the causes were unmixed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in His feature of Garbhodakaśāyī Viṣṇu, entered into the universe. Accompanying Him were all of the 7 primary elements, the 5 material elements, the total energy, meaning mahat-tattva, and the false ego. The entrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead involves His entering even into the atoms of the material world. This is confirmed in the Brahma-saṁhitā 5:35. aṇḍāntara-stha-paramāṇu-cayāntara-stham. He is not only within the universe, but also within the atoms. He is within the heart of every living entity. Garbhodakaśāyī Viṣṇu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into everything. Om Jnana-timrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhambitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayato Surato Pango Mama Manda Mategatim Matsavaswa Param Bojo Sri Radha Madana Mohano Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So yet we have another beautiful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam with beautiful purports by Srila Prabhupada. Here we have Garbhodakaśāyī Viṣṇu entering into the universe along with seven extra features, which is the 5 mahabhutas, earth, ether, air, water, fire, and earth. And the mahat-tattva, which is total substance of matter, the activated pradhana. So these 7 elements, they enter into the universe, and the Lord, He enters into everything. Not only does He enter into the universe, but He also enters and populates all of the atoms. And He goes into each and every heart of every living being as the Paramatma. In this way, we are actually swimming in Krishna. He's actually in everything and everywhere. It's just that our eyes have lost the ability to perceive His presence at every moment. He has a total network which makes any security surveillance system of modern day devices look very puny and pathetic, because He knows the intention of each and every heart. He knows the thought of each and every being and the movements of all, while meanwhile He's actually having nothing to do with it all, and He's in the spiritual world enjoying with His friends, and way above all of that. So this is at this time, this is talking about how when all the elements are in there just being formed and they're all separated. And at this time, the Lord also gave instruction to the living entities how to work with material nature, how to make the best of our incarnation in material world. At the beginning of creation, there's that beautiful shloka from Bhagavad Gita, Saha Yagya Praja Sristva. At the beginning of creation, Krishna sent forth hosts of demigods and men along with yagya, and He told them that perform this yagya, because by this performance you will achieve all that is desirable. He made life so simple. He gave us everything we need, and then He told us what to do. So it's so beautiful. But the thing is, what's with the human mind is a very interesting thing that likes to complicate. And just as we have something starts very simple, like if you start by 1 times 1, you get 2. And then 2 times 2, you get 4. 4 times 4, you get 16. 16 times 16, you get... Okay. Anyway. So you get 265. Can anyone say, does anyone have a mathematical brain here? What 256 times 256 would equal? It's an amazing 65,550. So this is the way that we take very simple elements, the 5 gross elements of ether, air, water, fire, and earth, and we mix them, and we create this complicated environment that we're entangled in. We create we just create the whole mesh. And but if we go back to basics, which is why Krishna created a very simple and beautiful life, and why Prabhupada propagated simple living, high thinking. Because when you live a simple life, then high thinking is quite easy to do, because everything is in its elemental stage. So we go to elementary school because we learn the elements. When we understand the elements, we can understand the complicated mixing of all these elements. This is talking about how the elements are all mixed. So when they get mixed, they get more and more and more complicated. They multiply the complications, because if you have 2 elements in a thing, then you mix it, you get 4, and then if you mix that with another 2, you get 16, and it goes on like until you get 6,000, 65,000. It gets really complicated. So Krishna made it so simple. Like for instance, if we go right back to the beginning where he gave the elements and we're here on the earth, if you take mud and water, earth and water, you have everything, right? With earth and water, you can mix the two and you can build a house. With earth and water, and of course the energetic principle, the seed, which Krishna gave us, you'll have food. What's the use of all these factories, all these big roads? Yesterday we went on the freeway, I counted 16 lanes of cars hurtling in two different directions, red lights and white lights, and hurtling, running after the carrot in front of the donkey, the carrot of the promise of happiness. Of course, we have our Sankirtan devotees, they also hurtle along the freeways, but that's a different purpose. But materialistic people running after the idea, the phantasmagoria of happiness in the material world, although Krishna does promise us happiness, but how does he promise happiness? Yajna. By the performance of yajna, all desirable things will be achieved. They will magically appear. We don't need to sell our souls to big corporations, and we know, Prabhupada told us. And so when we understand the elementary things, like also if you want to paint, I like to paint. So if you want to paint something, you have to understand underlying all the details of, the facial features and all the decoration on the outside. You have to understand the building blocks, the elements. So you have a square, which in 3 dimensions becomes a cube, or you have a triangle, which becomes like a pyramid shape in 3 dimensions, or you have a circle, which becomes a orb. So when you understand these things, on these you build, and the head is like an orb, and the body is like a cube, and like that you can build, and then you start adding. So when you understand the elements, this is why this whole chapter is here, because when we understand the elements, we get the bigger picture. And Krishna is so beautiful that he's giving us all this knowledge, but at the same time he's giving us the knowledge of his enchanting beauty, which keeps our minds on a high level, because simple life is simple. There's not much to think about, really. But there's so much to think about, because we think about the beauty of Krishna, and we see the beauty of Krishna in our natural environment. Because even on the freeway, I was thinking, oh my God, it's so ugly and so horrible. And then the sun rose. The sun rose, and it was foggy. The water mixing with the water and the air mixing, and it created the fog. So there was the fog lying over the fields, and the sun rose. And as the sun rose, it turned all the fog like pink and white in different layers, and it was all fluffy. And then there were the trees, which were silhouetted against the sun, and the sunlight was going through the trees and creating shafts of light. It was so beautiful. right next to the ugly freeway. There was this beautiful, natural phenomenon. So Krishna, he always gives us beauty so that we will remember him. And I think the demons are very hell-bent on destroying all beauty, because when we see beauty, naturally we remember in a very vague way. We remember Krishna. And if we're educated about Krishna consciousness, we remember Krishna directly. Say, wow, my Lord is so brilliant. Just look, he's not even making this. It's just there by his creative potency. So Krishna is so beautiful that he's said that he is like the ornament of all ornaments. That when Krishna wears an ornament, it's not that the ornament makes Krishna beautiful. It's that he beautifies the ornaments that he wears. He's so beautiful that when he chanced to see his reflection, he was astonished, stunned, because he's so beautiful that he attracts even himself. And Lord Chaitanya, he likes to speak about how the gopis, how fortunate were the gopis of Vrindavan, because with their eyes they always drink the nectar of the face of Krishna, which is the very essence of loveliness. Cannot be paralleled, cannot be equaled, ever fresh, perfect, and one. So beautiful. So we don't have to, we know we don't have to, we can just serve Krishna and Krishna will provide. Look, we have a beautiful temple, we have such a wonderful environment, and we want more people to come and expand that and give up the fruit of activity. It always sticks in my mind how Prabhupada said, the fruit of activity is demoniac. And I think about it a lot, and I always get new revelations about this point of how fruit of activity is demoniac. Because when you think on a small scale, like individual scale, you get some fruit for your work, it's kind of normal, right? But when it becomes mass consciousness, then you get the manifestation of greed, selfishness, and give me some more, Sachi, you were saying yesterday. Envy, nasty envy. That's why people can, under the sway of these tamasic and evil, non-Krishna conscious ways of thinking, they can do atrocities, steal other people's property, kill other people's bodies, take their land. Unthinkable sinful activity for which they will have to pay. And so the fruitive activity, when it becomes corporate, like in our times, it's not just like some little man doing some fruitive activity. We're talking about corporations driven by the money, driven by money and driven by investment and greed for more. Then we have the progress of destruction is speeded up unbelievably. I was speaking to my brother the other day. He lives in Ecuador, and he was saying how, where he's in Ecuador, the tributaries that contribute to the Amazon River are dry in Ecuador. There's no rain. This Amazon River is the lungs of this planet, and and then you've got all the withdrawing of the oil. How many millions? I was looking on the freeway yesterday. How many cars and how many gallons of petrol, and how much of energy, like oil, was also used in the creation of all those vehicles. So much energy. Even if you think of one bridge, how many tons of concrete to make one bridge, and how many lorries had to carry all those tons. It's so much endeavor, all in the wrong direction, and leading to catastrophe. Because all this removal of the oil from the earth can upset the balance, and if the polar shift happens, then you have things like oceans becoming mountains and countries becoming ocean beds. That kind of thing can happen if there's a polar shift. So it's really like a big deal, you know, it's a really big deal. And as devotees, we're trying to tip the balance favorably. And so we want to encourage everyone we want to go in a direction of more sustainability. We're very much united in our philosophy with environmentalists. In Bhagavatam, it's completely supporting any environmental issues. And in India, you can see the reverence, because God is in everything, right? He's in the atom. So likewise, he's in the soul that's within all living things. So in India, you know, they don't cut trees. They build the building around the tree, right? When they plow the ground, they offer puja to say, oh, to the earth, please forgive me that I cut into your surface. And they're only going a few inches deep. Here in a scientific, you know, atheistic mind, they're drilling great big holes and exploding nuclear warheads in there, or exploding atoms and crazy things like that. So, I mean, that can really cause so many problems. How much time do we have? Not so much time, so. Yeah, the devotee community is actually supposed to lead the way of the world and help them in the time of darkness with the guiding light of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like the rising sun, giving light to all of us, and the acharyas who are giving us direction, renunciation, simple living, and as much as possible, 24 hours 7, chanting Hare Krishna, serving Krishna, and spreading Krishna consciousness. There's a few minutes. I just say that today on the Vrajmandal Parikrama is the day where we go to Balaji, and there's 4 days of Kartik left. We're into the last 5 days of Kartik, which are the most said to be the most powerful for performing austerities. And I also wanted to mention, because Balaram being the first expansion of Krishna, and here this whole chapter is about the expansions and how the universe comes, not the universe, how the whole creation kind of grows out of Krishna through the different incarnations, the different expansions, the different expansions of Krishna, and how the creation expands out through them. And so Balaji being the first, I just wanted to mention him. And does anyone have any questions or anything, or comments? Yes, Brahma.
Yes, can you say something about like fruitive activities in Krishna consciousness? In a sense, is it this impediments to pure devotion?
So when Krishna consciousness is pure, then there isn't fruitive activity, because everything is done for Krishna. But we lack the purity and the, what would you say, the perseverance of concentration to be totally Krishna conscious at every moment. So some of our activities may be fruitive, but for the whole, if things are like, you know, directly connected to Krishna, it's okay. We just have to we have to be careful, because, you know, we do things which, you know, have results. You know, for instance, I'm always harping about this, you're probably tired of hearing it, but I think it's so important, the plastic issue. You know, we use the plastic. That plastic is on the planet for the next 500 years, and it does not go away. Even though you throw it in the trash, it does not go away. It just goes into the Mother Earth, or it goes into the ocean, or it goes into some animal's belly, like a cow in Vrindavan, or it goes into a whale or a shark. And then what happens is it goes into microplastics, and then it starts pervading into the food system, and then it gets into your brain, and you have disease. So it's a really serious thing, and everybody else outside of our movement, not everybody else, but people who are environmentally conscious outside our movement are talking about this, and I think that we need to like get on board a bit. You know, we could buy some tiffin, steel tiffin, and have suchi tiffin and take the mahaprasad like that. In that way, we're not creating obviously like reaction, like fruitive reaction is a chain reaction. This is a very gross example of a chain reaction of what happens when you do something. Like if you throw a pebble into the water, you get ripples, but you think it stops when the ripples end, but it doesn't end there with plastic. It goes on and on and on, because that stuff lasts for 500 years. And the polystyrene is even worse. I think it's 5,000, so it's really big deal. It's a really big deal. It gets into the food system. It breaks down into the earth. It gets in the food. There's so much problem because it imitates estrogen. Estrogen means that the male genital does not form properly, and there may not be reproduction in the future. It may not be possible to produce children in the future because of how it will affect the production of sperm because of estrogen, female hormone. Is a really big deal. Any other points? Sorry, I did go a bit on a tangent, but I hope that answers. Yes, everything done?
In regards to fruitive activities, obviously it's very dangerous proposition. That's why in the Bhagavad Gita it says, Jagyarta karma no anyatra loko yang karma vandana. That you get entangled, and you get, what happens when you get entangled? You come back again. Lord Rishabhadeva was telling his sons, Nunam pramate gurute vikarma ya indriya pritaya aprinoti nasadu manye yata admanaya asana piklesada asadeha. That one becomes so mad and crazy for fruitive activities, working for fruitive activities. As a consequence, what happened? Another body. So, but the devotee understand this through the teachings of the very literatures, and out of compassion, they go and educate these people so they don't get in this kind of karma bandhana. So fruitive activities definitely is a consequence of ignorance. And the devotee comes and tells them that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, Krishna is the best friend, he's the proprietor of everything, so therefore fruitive activities will stop if you have the right understanding. Haribo. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for such a beautiful lecture. I was listening to it in the Pujari room. I guess my question is, how do we, being in Krishna consciousness, there is the constructions of temples, there is the use of the land in many ways. Can you hear me, Prabhu? Louder? Okay. Yeah, so the question is, how do we balance really like preserving the environment and at the same time constructing more and more temples? Because they're both Krishna consciousness, and sometimes as devotees we build a lot of, you know, apartments or buildings. So how do we really balance the two?
It was interesting actually about the building of temples. I was talking with Mother Urmila when she was here, and she was saying how, you know, the building of temples, that's one of the things that we should do if we have money. That's a very pious activity. It's a devotional service to build temples. But she was saying that if we build temples in the Vedic way, employing hundreds and hundreds of craftspeople, like when they built Prabhupada's Samadhi, I was lucky to be there, at least when they were doing the outer covering of the marble. They had literally hundreds of Indian craftsmen there with little hammers and little chisels, and they carved all those peacocks that you see on the stairs, all that fancy, beautiful stuff all over the temple was hand-carved by a large group of Indian craftsmen. And this way they keep engaged in devotional service. They also get some money so they can live, and we're expanding our movement, and it's not destroying anything. So building temples, if it's done in an ethical way, I mean, everything has to be ethical. When we cut corners because of economic considerations, like let's do it cheaper, let's use fiberglass instead of stone or something like this, then we create problems, because we not only poison the workers who are working on it, the craftsmen, they get from the toxins, but we actually destroy the Vedic structure of society, where you have craftsmen, and you have farmers, and you have your brahmanas, and you have your kshatriyas, and it's still in place to quite some degree in India. But if we don't actually keep it engaged, it will further disappear. When it disappears, it's very difficult to bring it back, because these new ideas get entrenched, and people get, yeah, let's do it like this, And also, we don't know how those things will last. Like if you go to South India and see the temples, how many thousands of years old are those temples? Because they're built in the proper way. And so, but when the excavation is there, like when Raghunath Das Goswami was excavating Radhakund, and they hit the stone and it bled, and then they put that stone into the temple, the tongue of Govardhan. So in excavation there has to be a lot of care, because it's the Mother Earth, it's breaking into the Mother Earth. It has to be done with prayer, with yagya, with feeling. It has to be done honoring. It can't just be, like getting a bulldozer and blow it up or whatever like that, like they do, right? Like when they want to build the roads in Vrindavan, what do? They go to the mountain of Raj, the mountains of Raj, right? They drill a hole in the mountain, put some explosives, blow it up, and then use that to build the roads. How un-Vedic, how scientific kind of atheistic mind is that? Braj is spiritual wealth. It came from spiritual wealth. It has to be honored, totally honored, and we have to, the only people who can set that example is Hare Krishna movement, because we have the information, we have the books of Prabhupada that tell us. And the Vedic culture, unfortunately, got so smashed with the Yavan invasion, and then the British, what they did there, and they purposely, the British especially, purposely undermined the education system in India because they saw that they couldn't break India unless they broke the culture. And so they did it through education, so-called education, fruitive activity, materialistic, scientific mentality. And that's the system that's all over the world today. And so, we're supposed to be the guiding light, following with our Srimad Bhagavatam as our torch, teaching this. If we don't do it, who would know? Maybe some people in India know. In India, I think people know, but it's getting lost. The older generation is dying out. New generation has a whole other, IT and all this stuff. So not that those things can't be engaged, but they have to be very carefully engaged, because everything it has, like a knife, you can use it as a violent weapon and kill people, or you can use it in a surgical operation and help someone. So the thing is, when you give education to general, that's why education was only given to the brahmanas and the higher classes like kshatriyas, those with the intelligence and the integrity to use that knowledge in a way that was beneficial for the whole of the planet, all the living entities, including the animals and plants and the rivers and the mountains. That education can't be misused for fruitive gain. When it does, you have destruction, chaos. So education was just given to those who had sufficient intelligence to use it properly. But now education is given to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, and they're just like, oh yeah, I can do this and make money. I become, and they're not thinking of consequences. And because they don't know about reincarnation, or that every action has a reaction, they're not even concerned about it. They just do it and they think it's nothing, but they don't realize there's a whole consequential sequences of events that go on from that, and that they will take birth and they will suffer all the consequences or reap the benefits of their action, but they don't know. So the education is very important, but it has to be the right education. And yeah, I think, does that answer? Yeah, thank you. Very nice questions. Thank you. Okay, the time is getting on. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Hare Krishna.